David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney Plus. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney Plus every night.
Breaking news tonight. Sources say senators are nearing a deal to reopen the government as this shutdown hits day 40. Freeze alerts as far south as Florida and two major league pitchers charged in a sports betting scandal. We begin with the news that an end to the government shutdown may be in sight, what the senators could be voting on as soon as tonight. It comes amid confusion over SNAP benefits. The Trump administration is now warning states not to provide full payouts as the legal battle plays out. But what does this mean for the millions who rely on food assistance? Also tonight, the stark warning from the Transportation Secretary: air traffic could slow to a trickle by Thanksgiving if the shutdown continues. Air traffic controllers are not getting paid. Many are calling out sick. More than 2,000 flights canceled just today. We met a family that decided to drive instead of flying from New Jersey to Orlando. An early taste of winter with Arctic air sweeping south. Freeze alerts now in place all the way to the Gulf Coast. The Great Lakes region is getting its first significant snow of the season. Breaking news in a sports betting scandal. Two major league pitchers are indicted on multiple charges. What federal prosecutors allege they did to give bettors an edge, and how much prison time they could face if convicted. DHS says there's new violence connected to the immigration crackdown, claiming shots were fired at federal agents in Chicago. And a federal judge has now permanently blocked the Trump administration from sending troops to the streets of Portland, Oregon. The horrific scene in Tampa. A car slammed into a crowded bar, killing 4 people and injuring more than a dozen. Police say the driver was a street racer who was fleeing officers. New video shows police attempting a pit maneuver but failing to stop the driver. The FAA grounds all MD-11 jets after that deadly UPS crash in Louisville. Cargo companies are now scrambling to find replacement planes. And America strong tonight, a much-deserved honor for a real-life Rosie the Riveter.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Linsey Davis. We begin tonight with breaking news on Capitol Hill as the longest government shutdown in U.S. history enters its 40th day. A deal to end it may be in reach. A Democratic senator told ABC News that they will likely have enough Democratic votes to pass a Republican bill extending government funding into the new year. The Senate holding a rare Sunday session today. ABC News is also learning that the proposal does not include the Democrats' demand to extend Obamacare subsidies to prevent premiums from soaring for millions of Americans. This is Americans who rely on food SNAP benefits are in legal limbo and facing a food shortage crisis. The Trump administration is ordering states to, quote, immediately undo any steps taken to issue full SNAP benefits. And President Trump says he'll issue a dividend of at least $2,000 to Americans, except for, quote, high-income people. ABC's senior White House correspondent Selina Wang leads us off.
Tonight, on day 40 of the government shutdown, a potential end finally in sight. After working all weekend, senators near a deal to reopen the government. A senior Democratic senator tells ABC News there will likely be enough Democrats to pass a Republican bill to extend government funding until the end of January. Multiple sources tell ABC the deal does not include Democrats' key demand to extend Obamacare subsidies so premiums don't skyrocket for millions of Americans. Instead, sources say Democrats will only get a promise of a future vote on health care. Many remain skeptical, and any deal would need to clear the House as well.
They're telling us they're going to cheat on an agreement, and we need, in whatever agreement we reach, to have some really solid guarantees in that legislation that they simply can't go and renege after it's done.
Caught in the middle, 42 million low-income Americans who rely on SNAP food benefits. The Trump administration ordering states to immediately undo any steps taken to issue full SNAP benefits, threatening financial penalties if they don't comply. The order coming after at least 20 states, including Kansas, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Minnesota, said they had started the process of issuing full benefits. Families in those states finding themselves once again in limbo, like Christina Morales, a mom in Connecticut who just received her SNAP payment, but now fearful it won't last. How much did you have left in your account?
23 cents.
23 cents.
Yes.
Were you choosing between feeding yourself or your kids?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's what any parent would do.
Last week, a federal court ordered the Trump administration to pay out those benefits, but they appealed, and Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson allowed the administration to pause those payments for now. Today, Trump officials claiming they can't legally dip into emergency funds to pay for SNAP.
We're very glad that we found a way to get a lot of the SNAP money out, but it's really pushing the boundaries of the law.
23 cents remaining. That really puts it all in perspective. Selina, we know President Trump is now floating a new idea about direct payments to some Americans. What would that entail? Who would it include?
That's right, Linsey. The president says he wants to give $2,000 to every American except for high earners using money that the government has collected from tariffs. But a plan like that would likely need congressional approval. And today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he has not discussed it with the president. He also said the idea may be referring to tax breaks already in President Trump's agenda, Linsey.
Selina Wang from the White House. Thanks so much, Selina. Now to the travel disruptions and dread triggered by that government shutdown. U.S. airlines have canceled more than 2,000 flights today as the slowdown at some of the nation's busiest airports stretches into the third day, which, by the way, was the worst day of cancellations since the shutdown began. And the Secretary of Transportation warns this could all get much worse by Thanksgiving. Here's ABC's Faith Abubey.
Tonight, frustrated travelers at airports across the country forced to navigate long delays and thousands of flight cancellations amid a punishing government shutdown.
17-hour layover, so that's a whole day off my vacation.
Nationwide, more than 7,000 flights delayed Sunday and more than 2,000 flights canceled after the FAA ordered airlines to reduce 4% of flights at 40 of the nation's major airports. But according to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, the travel meltdown could get worse.
As I look 2 weeks out, as we get closer to Thanksgiving travel, listen, I think what's going to happen is you're going to have air travel slow to a trickle.
Duffy saying the airlines may have to cancel 1 out of every 5 flights if the shutdown doesn't come to an end soon. The FAA is struggling to staff critical air traffic control facilities that keep passengers safe. The workers have not been paid in weeks. At one point Saturday, 18 of the 22 air traffic controllers in Atlanta did not show up for work. Today, travelers still experiencing issues.
I took an earlier flight. I was told that that might help avoid the flight being canceled.
And take a look. Flight trackers showing these planes queued up for departure at Newark Airport, where the delays were over an hour. Those delays can cause flight crews to time out and cause a domino effect across the country. Amid the uncertainty, some travelers skipping the airports altogether. Deb Ostheimer and Harry Kleinman did not want to risk their Florida vacation, so instead, they started driving from New Jersey 2 days ago.
We stopped in Richmond, Virginia, and then in Savannah, and now from Savannah to Orlando.
And Linsey, according to Airlines for America, 71% of flights delayed on Saturday were all because of staffing issues. And since the beginning of the shutdown, more than 4 million passengers have personally experienced travel troubles. Linsey.
So many hoping relief is in sight. Faith, thank you. Now to the weather, and millions of Americans are bracing for an early blast of winter, including plunging temperatures and snow. Lake effect snow blanketed parts of northeastern Wisconsin earlier today, with more than 5 inches of snow reported in some areas, and more wintry weather for parts of northern New York as snow and sleet moved over the area. Let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station WABC. Hi, Danny. Give us a sense of how long this Arctic blast will last.
Well, here we go, right? It's a quick cold shot, Linsey, but it does pack a punch. Sub-freezing temperatures possible in parts of the southeast to start the work week. But tonight, let's start with the snow potential. Snow already falling in the Great Lakes, and it does look like it'll be a slick Monday morning commute from Chicago to Buffalo. Now, where the heaviest lake effect snow bands end up setting up overnight, up to a foot of snow is possible. That lake effect snow event continues through Tuesday. The Arctic air itself spreading south on Monday, with the coldest temps so far this season expected by Tuesday morning. Several several Gulf Coast cities see the potential for record lows. We're talking near the freezing mark in places like Baton Rouge and Jacksonville. When you factor in the wind, it will feel like teens and 20s for most of the East Coast Tuesday morning. Wind chills just in the 20s from northern Florida to New York City. But Lindsay, it does not last long. It's a quick rebound. It looks like highs are back near 50 in places like Chicago, Philly, and New York City by Wednesday.
Oh, that sounds nice. Thank you, Danny. Now to that shocking headline from Major League Baseball. 2 pitchers for the Cleveland Guardians were indicted in an alleged sports betting scheme. Federal prosecutors say they rigged individual pitches that led to gamblers winning hundreds of thousands of dollars. How the players are responding tonight. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, a stunning scandal shaking Major League Baseball. 2 Cleveland Guardians pitchers, Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz, now facing federal charges in a sweeping sports betting and money laundering scheme. Federal prosecutors say the star players rigged pitches for cash, allegedly tipping off bettors about how they'd throw. According to a federal indictment, when the Guardians played the Mets in 2023, Clase told bettors his pitch would be faster than 94.95 miles per hour. Better I and several of the bettors won approximately $27,000, wagering that exact throw. Then as recently as June 27th of this year, the indictment alleges Clase and Ortiz collaborated on an alleged plot for Ortiz to throw a ball for his first pitch in the 3rd inning against the St. Louis Cardinals, all in exchange for $7,000 from a bettor. Prosecutors say Clase would even take the money and fund bets himself, in one case allegedly withdrawing $50,000. In all, the feds say the rigged pitches generated close to $450,000 in fraudulent winnings. Among the charges, wire fraud conspiracy, money laundering conspiracy, and conspiracy to influence sports betting contests by bribery. Ortiz arrested in Boston this morning. Clase not in U.S. custody. The 2 pitchers on paid leave tonight. This investigation comes just weeks after 2 betting scandals within the NBA and NCAA. Officials say they're not related. And Lindsay, both the MLB and Cleveland Guardians say they are cooperating with law enforcement. An attorney for Ortiz telling ABC News tonight his client is innocent and has never and would never improperly influence a game. Reps for Clase could not be reached. Lindsay?
Morgan, thank you. Now to the chaos in Chicago as federal agents clash with protesters. Authorities are now searching for a suspect who allegedly fired shots at federal agents on Saturday during an immigration crackdown. ABC's Alex Stone has the latest.
Tonight, violent clashes on the streets of Chicago. And an urgent search underway for the person who federal agents say fired multiple gunshots at them during an immigration enforcement operation on Saturday. A crowd was demanding a detained woman's release when the Department of Homeland Security says a man driving a black Jeep fired the shots and then took off. The agency saying protesters also threw bricks and a paint can at their vehicles, calling those in the crowd agitators. But some residents say the federal agents were overly aggressive. Members of the Veraza family say they were driving yesterday when immigration agents driving the opposite direction pepper sprayed their car. They say they had to pull over and wash out their 1-year-old's eyes.
I couldn't feel my cheek. I couldn't feel nothing, not even my face. If my face was numb, now I imagine my daughter's face.
And tonight in Portland, Oregon, a federal judge whom President Trump himself appointed to the court says a president had no lawful basis to federalize Oregon's National Guard and to send troops to Portland against the wishes of local authorities. In a 106-page ruling, Judge Karen Immergut finding the federal government exaggerated claims of violence in the city to justify sending in troops.
There's a huge problem in Portland. I'll tell you what the problem is: crime.
Portland's leaders admit there have been protests, violent at times, but they told the court those protests have been small and easily handled by police.
His goal is to make Portland look like what he's been describing it as.
And Lindsay, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to overrule a lower court blocking deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago. The Supreme Court has not yet issued a decision. Lindsay?
Alex, thank you. Now to that tragedy in Tampa, Florida. 4 people were killed and 11 others injured after an alleged street racer lost control of his vehicle. Police released surveillance video of the suspect that they say was speed racing with another car before slamming into a crowd outside of a busy bar. The suspect now faces multiple charges, including vehicular homicide. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimbert.
Tonight, tragedy in Tampa, Florida, a community in mourning. A driver slamming into a crowd of people in Ybor City, a popular nightlife district, early Saturday morning, killing 4 and injuring more than a dozen others.
I've never experienced anything where I've seen so many people get hit by a vehicle like that. and hurt and killed.
Authorities say the driver, 22-year-old Silas Sampson, was street racing before the deadly crash. And tonight, new helicopter video from police showing officers trying to pull the vehicle over as it's speeding down the highway, exiting the interstate with officers in pursuit. Police attempting a pit maneuver, but the driver getting away. Moments later, losing control and plowing into a bar patio packed with people.
They were out in Ybor having a good time, expecting to go home safely, and a careless, reckless driver takes everybody's lives.
Linsey, the driver, is facing multiple felony vehicular homicide charges. He made his first court appearance today, and he'll remain in custody until his next hearing Thursday. Linsey?
Andrew, thank you. Next tonight, the Department of Justice is investigating meatpacking companies at the request of President Trump. The president is accusing the companies of collusion, price fixing, and manipulation in a social media post, but offered no proof to support his allegations. Analysts say several factors, including reduced cattle supplies, have caused beef prices to soar. A trade organization representing meatpackers says that they are not to blame for the price increases. Overseas now to a super typhoon devastating parts of the Philippines. The massive storm with heavy winds and strong rain killed at least 2 people and forced more than 1 million others to evacuate vulnerable areas. Several cities and towns are now without power. All this less than a week after another storm killed more than 200 people. And there's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday, including an urgent recall of baby formula after more than a dozen infants were hospitalized with botulism, and the bystanders who jumped into action to save a man from a burning car. Next tonight, dramatic video from Clearwater, Florida. Watch as bystanders drag a man from a burning car to safety on Friday afternoon. One person was seen using a fire extinguisher to contain the blaze, and firefighters put it out. That driver, who's 74 years old, was later rushed to a hospital. No word on his condition. The FAA has grounded all MD-11 cargo planes after that horrific UPS crash in Louisville, Kentucky. At least 14 people were killed, including the 3-member crew and several people on the ground. The plane plummeted from the sky and burst into a ball of flames on Tuesday. Investigators say one of the engines detached from the left wing shortly after takeoff. When we come back, the nationwide recall of baby formula linked to a serious illness. To the Index tonight, we are remembering Paul Tagliabue, the former NFL commissioner. During his 17-year tenure, league revenue skyrocketed and 4 teams were added. In 2017, he apologized for remarks that seemed to downplay the risks of head injuries in pro football. His family says he died today from heart failure complicated by Parkinson's disease. Paul Tagliabue was 84 years old. Next, an urgent recall of baby formula that's been linked to botulism. ByHeart is recalling 2 lots of its whole nutrition infant formula. That's after 13 infants in 10 states were hospitalized with infant botulism. The FDA is investigating how the formula was contaminated and whether any other products are infected. We have a list of the recalled lots at abcnews.com. And an 86-year-old woman just crossed off a major item from her bucket list. Kim Noor has been skydiving for nearly 70 years. This is video from one of her jumps last summer. On Thursday in Florida, she earned gold wings from the U.S. Parachute Association by completing her 1,000th jump. Kim later said dreams come true and there's no expiration date for the dream. Super impressive. And when we come back, another great story, a special honor for a real-life Rosie the Riveter. Finally tonight, America Strong, one of the many heroines of World War II, finally gets her due decades later. Earlier this year, Frances Masters turned 103. The centenarian from New Baltimore, Michigan, has lived through more than a century of American history and did her share to help during World War II as a Rosie the Riveter.
We just came out of the Depression, and we all had to work.
Frances worked as an actual riveter at the Ford Willow Run bomber plant in Ypsilanti.
Gave me an honor to work to help for the war effort. I do remember going early in the morning, taking a streetcar plus the bus.
Her image is now the face of a new life-size Rosie the Riveter statue to be unveiled on Veterans Day at the Michigan World War II Legacy Memorial. The statue will depict Masters working on the factory line, riveting panels for B-24 bombers.
I used a press, I used a small riveter, plus in the bigger part of the of the plane, I used a power gun.
This weekend, in anticipation of the big day, Frances was busy writing her speech and getting her hair done.
It's a privilege, not only for me, but for all the other Rosies.
Striking that iconic pose. Thanks for watching. I'm Linsey Davis. Good night.
David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. And now, ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the third year in a row.